Hello and welcome back to Well Played, presented by the Skimm, the only podcast dedicated to treating the sports world like the bingeable reality TV it actually is. We are finally back after a brief post-Olympic hiatus, just in time for one of the busiest times in the sports calendar. I'm Amanda Durin.
And I'm Blake Bloomerwin. And today we have a lot to cover, including our NFL season preview, some fantasy football tips, and of course, some US Open and WNBA updates. Make sure you're subscribed to the Well Played podcast feed because we'll be back every Tuesday throughout the season and beyond. No breaks this time.
No breaks this time. We'll also return next Tuesday with all the headlines that come out of this weekend's slate of games. So make sure you're subscribed so you do not miss that one. Welcome back, Blake. I love how we got a post-Olympic break, but like WNBA players didn't.
No,
they went right back on the road playing basketball games, but we're good. We're refreshed, ready to dive back in.
We are, and also we still got the Paralympics going on, so Olympics technically aren't even really over, but I don't know. The past 2 weeks have felt, it's only been 2 weeks.
It's only been 2 weeks.
Are you kidding? It's been like the longest 2 weeks of my life, I think.
And you know what? I feel like this is the reason that the Skimm and we started this podcast. Sports have always been huge, but I think they've really brought in the audience. I mean, I was reading that the US Open is as packed as it's ever been. We'll talk about that. We're excited to be back here. And again, to talk about sports in the way we know our audience and readers of the Skimm and followers of the Skimm like to get their information. They like it quick. They like it succinct. They like a little bit of color, a little splash of humor when it's appropriate. So that's what we're here for. And we will be here every week covering non-Olympic sports. And hopefully in 4 years, we'll be back as well. So make sure you are subscribed to the feed. You can watch full episodes on YouTube. We'll also have YouTube clips. I'm excited. We're going to have some fun.
We are.
As always, we begin today's episode of Well Played with Playing the Field, a roundup of our favorite stories dominating your feeds this week. So let's just get started as early as possible. Almost as early as when I took Patrick Mahomes in our Skimm Fantasy Football draft the other day.
Ooh, can't wait to talk about that one.
Very early. It is time for Playing the Field.
So we are beginning today's edition of Playing the Field with a man who knows a lot about playing the field, both inside and outside of sports, Tom Brady. In his 23 seasons playing quarterback in the NFL, Brady was celebrated for many things, scoring touchdowns, perhaps.
You missed your calling as a voice actor. That was incredible.
There's still time. I'm only 25. Let us not forget. Okay, winning championships, putting
she
up...
reminds us every chance she can.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm turning 26 in a month from now, so
good.
you'll hear about that too.
Yeah.
Anyway, my boy, Tom Brady, he was celebrated for a lot of things in his football career. Scoring touchdowns, of course, winning championships, putting up MVP numbers. But one thing he was never really celebrated for was sharing a lot about his personal life. But that is turning a corner.
Yeah, we are about to be absolutely saturated with Tom Brady content. Starting this Sunday, Brady will begin the first season of his 10-year, $375 million contract with Fox as an NFL analyst and color commentator. But there is one place you probably did not expect to see him. He is also launching his own YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Just a few weeks ago, Tom Brady announced his new series dubbed Last Week with Tom. The first episode featured a 9-minute video of his time in Paris for the Olympics, as well as plenty of shirtless shots on a yacht. His next episode was titled I Tried to Dunk at 47, and then the third was just 10 minutes of him bench pressing increasingly heavier.
I also like how they named the series Last Week with Tom. Like, he's just some guy. His name is Tom. Right. He's just a guy.
Well, if you look at the thumbnail, he does just look like some guy. He's just, I think, shirtless, like throwing up a peace sign or something. I mean, I don't know what I expected when I clicked into Tom Brady's YouTube channel, but it probably wasn't like this 47-year-old iconic football player traipsing about the Mediterranean on a yacht like definitely a 23-year-old heiress.
If you took his face off his body, he does look like a 25-year-old man.
Botox, so fresh.
Full.
50 units yesterday. I mean, he really is living his best life. So, Tom Brady, he's not necessarily known as someone who plays fast and loose with his public persona. In fact, some have even called him the epitome of a controlled image. What do you think of this attempt to turn himself into a media brand? It's definitely, when you watch these, they are very intentional, the way he is presenting himself.
I was going to say, so there's this phrase I like to say a lot in life, which is, I may not understand, but still, I stan. In this case, I actually think I want to say the reverse. I understand, but I do not stand.
You do not stand.
I mean, I'm happy for him. A lot of his fans, I was reading the YouTube comments deep in there, they're very happy to see Mr. Tom Brady enjoying his retirement. I just cannot get behind watching a multimillionaire, like you said, going through the Mediterranean. I mean, I'm glad he brought his daughter along. He does seem like a nice man. But
his children are incredibly charming, and I feel like he features them like just enough where you're not like, get your kids out of this. I feel like this is probably Giselle's doing. Like, you can put them in there a little bit. Like, if my daughter can meet Sabrina Ionescu, fine, she can be in a YouTube video. But
like I said, I understand it. I will, what you commented about, it's very intentional. It does feel like his production, he has a production company that's basically, it's his own production company making this.
It almost is giving scripted. Like, yeah.
So it doesn't feel that authentic. Like, it's not classic. If you're going to his YouTube channel expecting like classic vlogger, like, what is up, you guys? Right. It's your boy Tom. It's not as much that. It's teetering that way, but it's not. But it's missing that je ne sais quoi.
It's so clean. He's such a pretty boy. And I do find him pretty like likable, yet he still gives me the ick. One of the hottest men ever, like empirically, objectively. But I'm just, it's giving the ick. He's just it's all too earnest.
I was gonna say, he's maybe a little too nice.
It's way too nice, way too earnest. And him being too nice, we will get back to when we talk about his commentating. But I mean, also with this, like we said, he has this $375 million contract with Fox. I believe he's currently worth $300 million. I'm actually surprised it's not more.
I agree.
But if I was worth $300 million and I just signed a $375 million contract, that would be enough. I would simply rest and relax.
The YouTube channel would not need to be a thing.
Yeah.
Because there must be like there must be a money play here, right? I mean, also as you mentioned, he is about to embark on this first season as a lead analyst for the NFL on Fox. And that starts when he's in the booth this Sunday for the Cowboys and Browns game. And he signed this massive deal over a year, basically 2 years ago, before opting to play one more season for the Bucks. But there is a little caveat there, which can you just tell our listeners about this? Then I will bring it back to why I think the YouTube channel is conveniently timed to his little analyst career.
Well, I think people have just posed a lot of questions about, yes, it's Tom Brady. He's a huge star. He's very popular. He will probably draw some eyeballs, but does that necessarily mean he's going to be a good commentator? That's a very specific skill. Tom Brady, as we said, from these videos and from interviews he's given in the past couple months, he seems like a pretty nice dude. Like, I don't think he's
not trying to ruffle any feathers.
And I think he's genuinely like doesn't want to upset anybody. So when he's asked to give like a candid statement on an athlete's performance, is he really going to be game to do that? Or is he going to be like, oh no, that's my boy. Like he's working so hard. We hope he comes around. Like, that's not interesting commentary. You got to be kind of, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He also is in the process of becoming an owner of a football team, the Las Vegas Raiders. It's like his favorite team. And as he mentioned in one of his YouTube videos that I did watch.
He must be one of these guys that sleeps like 4 hours a night.
I don't understand how he does it. No. And he doesn't need to.
Well, if you ever like read about his diet, it's insane.
No.
It's like 3 carbs a day. Like,
someone get this boy a baguette. Like, I don't
know, please.
Like, you're going around the world anyway. Just stop in for some culture. Why don't you?
Totally.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of restrictions on what he can even say as an analyst. And so that's why I think his YouTube channel, maybe he won't be able to give any color in his commentating, but he's going to just direct the viewers to his YouTube channel, where he still is not really giving that much color or personality or pizzazz, but I guess it's just a little sneak peek into life of TV.
It's hard to imagine him doing this for 10 years. Signing somebody for a 10-year contract before they've ever done it once is wild. I mean, the main thing I'm getting from everything that he's doing is like, I don't think, maybe Giselle, if you're listening, please feel to write in, but he's not necessarily giving like toxic, like malevolent narcissist to me, but he is in his main character energy like crazy. Like, I don't know. I'm somebody where it's like, I know I'm sitting here in front of a podcast mic, but I tend to be very like, why should people listen to me? Like, this guy's like, why wouldn't I just film myself doing what I would do anyway for 10 minutes? Why not? And he absolutely loves it. So, he's like newly divorced. I feel like I can't decide if he's just like a busybody and he's just one of those people that constantly needs to be busy, or if he is like, a slight narcissist, very self-centered person who just thrives on like, people must be paying attention to me. But we are about to be in an era of Tom Brady complete media saturation. All right, Blake, for our next story for Playing the Field, quick disclaimer, we did not intend for this segment name to be so on the nose in this case, but we do have a story about a UK sports commentator texting people sexual messages who are not their wife. Ooh. This is a story out of the UK, and this time it involves a commentator making headlines for all of the wrong reasons. It is BBC soccer commentator and former Tottenham Hotspur player Jermaine Jennis. He was fired from his job for sending sexually explicit texts to 2 of his colleagues. According to reports, Jennis was fired over Zoom while on vacation with his wife and 3 kids.
Jesus. Oh my goodness. And apparently Jennis admitted to the allegations, but claims they were, quote, consenting adults. But at least one of the women was reportedly uncomfortable with the text and notified the BBC. And Jennis apologized, but he seemed to kind of like tiptoe around the responsibility, saying he wasn't going through some kind of BBC vault trying to get women's numbers. And he said, I'm obviously going to say I'm not a sex pest. I've never once thought, like, that phrase sex pest has never come to my mind.
To me, it's giving like I am a sex pest. Like that didn't occur to, I mean, of course, like the women that he were texting, it sounds like some of them did ultimately say like, this isn't cool.
Yeah.
His claim is that there was an ongoing flirty in-person relationship. And this was something that they both, that was mutual. Like he said, consenting adults. His reaction to this, like I was reading, he's talking a lot.
He is. I was honestly shocked by how much he's yapping about it.
He's very, in this scenario, this gentleman really believes himself to be the victim. Not even necessarily of his employer. I don't think he's really argued that he needed to be fired from this. But like one quote, he was like, yes, I went to my doctor about this. I'm like, you went to your doctor? This is not a medical problem,
just
bro.
Take the L.
Yeah, you couldn't have the willpower to not text outside of your sexy messages, outside of your marriage and in your workplace. And this guy was sort of set up to sort of be, you know, just sort of inherit a really, really big role in commentating on soccer for the BBC. And all you had to do was not text.
Just don't do it. Don't hit
was
send.
not sext coworkers.
Yeah.
Like so many people I want to give that message to. All you got to do is not sext coworkers.
Just
it cannot be that hard.
Also, I was reading that he was saying that even his dog was looking at him funny.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, why you got to bring the dog into it? Leave this dog out of it.
He is very much, and you see this a lot from like men when they have this kind of infraction, you know. I mean, a lot of times he says what they say, which is like, I'm going to go to therapy. I need to figure out why I did this. It's like they're trying to make it this sort of like pathology that they had no control over. I just thought it was so, he was like, I'm going to my primary doctor.
Jesus.
Which maybe is a UK thing. He's like, it's free. They'll find me a therapist. But it's like, imagine you got in trouble at work for sexting your coworkers.
Really gotta talk to my doctor
and then you
about this.
go to your
what
GP,
is the doctor's going to say?
Your doctor, you go to a physical and they're like, what else is up? And it's like, well, I'm so curious. I wonder why I was moved to do this. It's like, you got to unpack that, bro. But yeah, this guy seems to, he's a victim of his own actions. He feels very, very sorry for himself. All right, what do we got next for Playing the Field, Blake?
God, following that one. We have some other news in sport. I don't know. Basically, we're finishing today with, again, Olympics, this time the Paralympics.
Yes.
More specifically, their TikTok account. In what has become a divisive page, the Paralympics account has become known for its, shall we say, very bold approach to social media. Very edgy. The account has posted several videos with athletes in less than flattering situations, including one from the Tokyo Olympics featuring a blind triathlete for feeling for his bike with the caption, "Para-triathlon is swim, bike, and air piano."
Because it looks like he's playing
it
there's the
look
sound
like,
of a piano.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. According to the Washington Post, quote, that strategy has been divisive in the Paralympics community. Some athletes find the account humorous and believe it can reshape conversations about inclusion. Others call the account offensive and argue that it downplays athletes' accomplishments while making a mockery of their disabilities. What did you think when I'm sure that you came across these videos before these articles started coming out.
Well, I think that's why we wanted to include this, because I think I've seen these videos and I've also seen a lot of videos on my For You page of people being like, am I allowed? Is this funny?
Yeah.
And of course, we should add the disclaimer. Neither Blake nor I are members of the disability community. We are not disabled, so we don't, our like opinions or assessments of whether or not it's funny or not, they don't matter. I think we're more talking about the conversation around this. But a lot of what we're pulling from was from a really good Washington Post article. And the reporter just interviewed, a lot of people that they didn't really come to any conclusions, even on an individual basis. It's like, I think it's a super interesting conversation about representation overall. And people were saying, it's fantastic that people get to see these athletes in a light that is not always so heavy.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people take issue with the only representation of people with disabilities being like inspiration porn. Like, look at this person. But as I was reading that, I was thinking it's like, but Olympics content is also inspiration porn. So I think some of the athletes were making the point where, we don't want to be the punchline. Like, we can laugh at ourselves and it's great to sort of show that we have this other side that's not incredibly earnest and just focusing on the challenges we've been through. But I just found it to be a really like fascinating, interesting conversation. And it seemed to be, again, like athletes that they interviewed disagreed, fans of the account or people that were observing the account who have disabilities disagreed with each other, and some of them couldn't come to conclusions. But it's just a really important conversation to have as we talk about virality on social media, and is all representation good representation, or can it contribute to narratives that, again, like one athlete was saying, we just want to be covered like the Olympians are covered. And I was thinking to myself, did I see silly, funny fail
I was just
Olympic
thinking
content?
about, like, we talked about our girl Ray Gun. Like, did the Olympics account cover Ray Gun? Which, I mean, if we're being honest, it was quite funny, like, watching her performance sometimes. And it's like, were they covering it in that way? I don't think
think so.
A single video that was
they
like,
could have and should have, but I don't recall that. So this sort of instinct to, the line between sort of like edgy and this sort of radical type of representation and mockery is very, very thin. And that seems to be what they're talking
like
about.
Basically any community that is somewhat marginalized. You know what I mean? Like, I can think even in my own experience with like being Asian American and stereotypes that you hear growing up, and people like, there are literally content creators who will create videos about stereotypical things that Asian parents do, and it's like sometimes, like, at the beginning it's kind of funny, but then it's like, okay, this is kind of old and overdone and not that funny anymore, and just like not a good way to represent our community. And
right. And I'm sure it's similar to some of the content on the Paralympics account where it's like, we can laugh at this, you guys can't laugh at this.
Exactly.
But the issue is that everybody is laughing at it. I mean, this account has more than 170 million likes.
Side note, if you told me you had a PhD in media analysis, girl, I would believe you. I'd be like, show me the degree, because I believe you.
If anyone wants to confer one on me for no student debt, I'll take it. I will take it. But so what if some of the athletes represented on this account said about it?
I mean, just bringing it back to the video that I referred to earlier from the Tokyo Olympics, the cyclist in that video, his name is Brad Snyder, and he weighed in on the debate saying that he enjoyed the joke, but was aware that many people were less than happy about it. The IPC's communication director, Craig Spence, said, quote, "The majority of complaints we've had on our channels have been from persons without disabilities. Our athlete community is saying this is perfect. This is who we are. We have a laugh. We've got a great sense of humor, and we love to compete." I still do kind of, again, we're not part of the disability community, but I do agree with what you said. It's just about, like, they can laugh on it if they want. I think maybe.
Yeah. And another important thing to note is that I believe there are 4 managers of this account, and 3 of them do have disabilities. And again, like you referenced, there's content you see from Asian American creators where you're like, just because it's us saying it doesn't mean it doesn't strike me the wrong way. But I mean, overall, have you been watching any of these Paralympics?
I have. I personally have. I was watching rugby the other day, wheelchair rugby. It was just, honestly, in some ways more captivating than the rugby on the field in the regular Olympics. Have you been watching anything?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just, you watch the Olympics and you think this is humans pushing their bodies to the absolute limit of what humans can do. And then you see the Paralympics, you're like, oh no, actually this is humans pushing themselves. And it's just, this year especially, the visibility, I think the visibility is not just because of the Paralympics account. I think also,
I agree.
Carryover from the Olympics, which was such a fun experience for everybody. And we really do not see enough representation of people with disabilities overall. In the US, 20% of Americans have disabilities. It is the biggest minority group we have. I also think a lot about the fact that somebody said this to me once, and it's often repeated, is that the disability community is sort of the only minority group that anyone can become a part of at any time.
True.
So to see it more represented, to see these things, again, like normalized, like people just on our TV 24/7 with limb differences who use wheelchairs. It's just so important. And I think that's why these conversations around the account and is all representation good representation are important. Right, so we will definitely be tuning into the Paralympics as they continue, and we highly encourage you to do the same. We have another carryover story from the Paris Olympics. Blake, I don't know if you saw this, but the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, announced that she intends to make the Olympic rings on the Eiffel Tower a permanent fixture, with a plan to replace them with iron rings as soon as possible. The rings on there now are apparently not good to withstand certain types of weather. Instead of being like, let's just take them down then, that would make sense. They are going to replace them with a better version that can withstand that weather. To me, that's like, we're not going to take down the Rockefeller Christmas tree. We're just going to leave it up there permanently. This isn't being well received by everybody, specifically the descendants of Gustav Eiffel, who have said they oppose the plan. And this has become a pretty divisive issue for the famously opinionated French and Parisian population. What do you think of this, Blake? Do you think it's like a great idea? It's a great way to sort of commemorate what was a beautiful time for the city? Or is this really kind of a prisoner of the moment decision?
This is like our je ne sais quoi or je ne sais non segment from the last segment. And I'm going to say, in the spirit, I'm going to say je ne sais nah.
Good, okay. I was nervous for a second.
I know, you know me. Sometimes I just like full send it into random takes. But I was reading this quote from Anne Hidalgo, and she was like, you know, I just really want to she was basically saying she like loves that the Olympics brought this new love for the city of Paris, and she's happy that Parisians have something to be happy about and wants to, you know, have these rings serve as a reminder of that. And I'm like, so you think just like slapping on a couple of rings permanently to the Eiffel Tower is gonna bring some rejuvenation to your city? Why not instead of like looking at actual problems that Parisians want to get fixed, to make them love their city?
There are maybe some other infrastructure changes that we can address before we use the city budget to put new iron rings on there. Like maybe redirect it towards like cleaning up the Seine more,
I was gonna say
fixing the Notre Dame, which I think still needs a little
6 years later.
I mean, to me, I read those quotes too, and it's clear that the Paris mayor is very satisfied with her and her colleagues' performance getting the Paris Olympics were fantastic.
They were
absolutely
amazing.
But it just reminded me, it's like, okay, girl, that doesn't mean you can sort of I'm glad you had this incredible professional achievement. You can't sort of make it a mark on your city's infrastructure. It's like, you know, we do social media. Would I love to put like my best ever tweet, just slap it on the Empire State Building for everyone to look at all the time? Sure. I don't have that luxury, and I wouldn't subject my fellow New Yorkers to that. It's giving like you walk into somebody's house in April and their Christmas tree is still up and their lights are still up, and you're like, ooh, girl, you okay?
Yeah.
That's how I'm feeling
like
about
we can
Anne Hidalgo.
we can have other things to celebrate. Right. We don't need it permanently affixed on the National Monument.
Right. And it's not just like a random building. It is the Eiffel Tower. It is going to, like, every image anyone takes in the Eiffel Tower is, and no shade to the Olympics.
No,
they're
of course,
not problematic. It's just it seems like this is being done for an audience of one, and that is the Paris mayor. She just wants to.
It's like she's acting as if it's her crowning achievement. And again, it's like, this can't be your only legacy, honey. Like, come on.
Right, exactly. She's going to be just like senile. Like, but you see the rings on the tower? Yeah, I'm also a je ne sais nah here. I would be surprised if this plan, when I read permanent.
I don't think it's going to.
It can't be. They're not going to allow that.
I will be in France. I will be there this week, and I'm going to ask some French people what they think. Yeah. And when I come back, I will let you know.
Oh, perfect. I can't wait. I feel like they're going to have some very, very, very strong reactions.
Of course.
Yeah.
Amanda, it is finally here. Perhaps the most anticipated regular season sporting event of the year kicks off. Like, it literally is kicking off this Thursday as the 2024 NFL season begins with a matchup between Patrick Mahomes, who is on your fantasy football team, as you mentioned to me off air, of the reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and Lamar Jackson, reigning league MVP and star of the Baltimore Ravens. Before we get into the football of it all and share some NFL preview season information, I want to know, we both participated in the Skimm's first inaugural. It was the inaugural fantasy football draft. How did your draft go last week? We weren't together physically, so I want to know what was going through your mind. Everything.
I mean, I thought I did okay. I did, a decent amount of research looking at, all of the stats and the rankings, and I spent a lot of time looking at the sleepers. I got some good. Our coworker Jesse Lee, who is seems like this is the highlight of his life. Yeah.
Yes. He's like not just our coworker, he is the league commissioner.
Thank you. Put some respect on his name. He, every time I would make a pick, he seemed to like. He's like,
I know those moments. I felt very validated.
I thought I was doing well, but then Yahoo sent me like a sort of AI generated summary and assessment of my picks, and it gave me a D. It was kind of. It was really ripping into me. It was like, you think you did a good job with Patrick Mahomes and this, but no. You messed up this way, that way, and that way. So I didn't feel incredibly motivated. I thought the AI generated could have been a little bit more engaging. So I'm a little bummed about it. But I'm invested. But this is my first year doing a fantasy. So how'd you feel with your picks?
I just love that when we think of AI in sports, I didn't think I would be thinking about it in the context of ripping you a new one.
I know.
For your fantasy football team, but here we are. I actually didn't get my team analyzed, so I
didn't ask. Why did I?
They wanted to prey on the vulnerable.
It was that bad. They were like, we got to let this girl know we're rating her AD.
Yeah, my experience was pretty chill. I think I do wish I was in the office. I was virtual. I tuned in that way. I was pretty content. I think my initial strategy was to just pick the hottest men in the NFL.
Well, what is the name of your team?
Blake's Bodacious Ballers.
Right.
I'm a fan of alliteration. Also, the S in Ballers is actually a Z.
Okay.
Put some swag points on it.
Definitely winner for the name.
Totally.
You may be bottom of the league at the end, but
who knows?
Right.
They're still bodacious.
And I mean, I'm also going on maternity leave in November, so somebody's going to have to inherit. It'll probably be Jesse, or maybe our producer Sean will inherit my D. So I admit the stakes didn't feel super high. I was like, this is just for 2 months, and if it goes the wrong way, this is somebody else's problem.
We're still thinking of a punishment for. I use the word punishment lightly for HR purposes. This is a workplace. We're thinking of a thing that the loser has to do in the workplace. If you have any recommendations, please tell us that are work appropriate. Don't be sick. But yeah, I overall had a good time, and I'm very excited. I kind of ditched my strategy that I pitched though earlier of hottest men in the NFL, because it turns out there are a lot of men in the NFL, and I couldn't just comb through.
Yeah, it was a really fun draft because Blake and I work at the Skimm. If you're familiar with the brand, the Skimm is very very vigilant. Very we ask lots of questions because we want good answers, and Jesse was very patient with all of us.
He was an angel with that.
Yeah. All right, Blake, we have a bunch of fun facts and notable storylines to share with the audience before the games kick off this Thursday. We're calling these our Pick 6, the 6 things you'll want to know before the season gets underway, so you'll actually have something to talk about during all the commercials this weekend. Start us off, Blake, with number 1.
I sure do. So number 1 in the Pick 6, let's talk some history.
Cool.
This is the 105th NFL season, and the Chiefs are attempting to do something no other team has done, and that is win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Despite three-peats being somewhat common in other sports, like Michael Jordan's Bulls, Derek Jeter's Yankees, Shaq and Kobe with the Lakers, no team has actually done it in the Super Bowl era. Fun fact. The Chiefs are the 8th team to win 2 in a row, but Mahomes and company have a chance to be the only team to win 3. But forget about the Chiefs fans. Let's talk about who's really important here. What would it mean to the Swifties out there to get a third Super Bowl win? Honestly, they will probably pack that stadium because they know that it'll be a chance to see Miss Taylor.
Right, and the more we get to see Taylor and Travis together, or Taylor observing Travis, the more, I mean, this is going to the season. This is going to be the NFL season, perhaps to the chagrin of longtime NFL fans who do not care about Taylor Swift's immersion in it. Of will the Chiefs three-peat, and will this be the year Travis Kelce proposes?
TBD, what if he did it on the Super Bowl?
I mean, I think that's going to be the speculation for sure.
Oh my God.
Or she'll just if they win, she finally announces Rep TV or something. Next up on the Pick 6, rule changes. This season will feature a ban on so-called hip drop tackles to limit leg injuries to offensive players. So keep an eye out for that. As I was watching these, as with most football, I'm like, if you just did that to somebody on the street, you would be charged with a felony.
Yes,
so
arrest on the spot.
This one looks pretty dangerous. I'm glad to see that one is now eliminated. But there's also a huge rule change that's going to be pretty noticeable. If you haven't heard about this, things are going to look pretty different this week. The biggest change to the rules this year involves kickoffs. So casual fans are going to be a bit taken aback when they see the new kickoffs this weekend, because they look and feel completely different from what we're used to. And this comes amid some sort of asks for some change to make these kind of more
ask and you shall receive.
Right, a more productive part of the game. So starting this season, players from both teams, other than the kicker, will line up on the receiving team side of the field, and the kicking team's players can't begin running until the ball has landed or is caught. And this was done in an effort to limit high-speed collisions and incentivize more aggressive returns. Touchbacks will also work differently, so kicking teams are more likely to kick the ball short of the goal line and allow for more exciting plays. But there's going to be an adjustment period for players and fans alike, of course. Several teams struggled to grasp the intricacies of the rules during the preseason, and fans have complained that it doesn't look like the NFL football they're used to, even though, again, fans are part of the group that sort of demanded some sort of change here. Blake, what do you think? Do you think people will warm up to the new look once they see more exciting plays, or just not worth the trouble?
Well, I, too, have not been a fan of change in my life. The one that came to mind when I was learning about this new rule change is just, you watch Survivor? You ever watch Survivor?
Of course.
So Survivor, pre-COVID craziness. They were going to China. They're They're going to Africa. They're going to Cook Island, so remote off the coast of, not the coast, but off of Australia, you know? And then COVID happens. And then they decide we're only going to Fiji. We're also going to scale back the amount of days that we're going to do this challenge. And it's like, I don't know, less than a month now. I think it's like 26 days. And I found that incredibly boring. I love Survivor as a longtime fan, but hate watch the new seasons because I just find that they're very repetitive. That said, fans ask for it. Okay, so, you know, like I said, ask and you shall receive. Also, it seems like this is going to reduce injuries and make the game more exciting. Keep the ball in play longer.
I think
Isn't
people
that kind of like best case scenario?
I think people will complain on Twitter for the first few games and then forget it ever looked differently, much like I did when they completely refreshed Real Housewives of New York. It'll be fine. Everyone will be fine.
We all have our outlets, but a few more fun facts for you all. First, we're not going, but the teams are going on vacation to South America. At least 2 teams are. The NFL will play its first game in the Southern Hemisphere this Friday when the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers meet in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And we should note that X, formerly known as Twitter, is likely going to be banned there by game time. Later this season, games will also be played in London and Munich. I mention X because that probably means you're not going to hear maybe much about this game. I also heard, you know, the players are kind of just, they're going to go there, they're going to do their work, and they're going to fly out of Brazil. Still, going on vacation. Exciting times for the NFL.
Picking favorites here. The odds makers have spoken, and 2 teams are the clear favorites for the Super Bowl this year. The San Francisco 49ers are favorites to return to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, and the Chiefs are the odds-on favorites to march to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. So a Super Bowl rematch has only taken place in consecutive seasons one time before between the Cowboys and the Bills in the early 90s. Number 5 in our pick 6, keep an eye out for returning faces. Jim Harbaugh is the new head coach of the LA Chargers a good 10 years after he left the league to coach the University of Michigan. Fresh off a national championship with the Wolverines, Harbaugh has high expectations to take the Chargers to the next level this season. And what do we have for number 6, Blake?
Number 6 of the pick 6. Okay, that's enough. Oh my God. Sometimes I have to cancel myself. A rookie quarterback has never won the Super Bowl, but this could be the year that changes. A record 6 quarterbacks were taken in the first round of the NFL draft this year, all within the first 12 selections. Could this be the year that a rookie wins it all? All eyes will be on top pick Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, who many have pegged as contenders to make a run. But Amanda, enough about football. I want to get to the league that I know you are a big fan of. Tell me about what's cooking in the WNBA.
Okay, the WNBA, the post-Olympics end of season has been pretty eventful. The WNBA is entering its home stretch, and there are lots of storylines that have developed. Caitlin Clark set the record this past week for 3-pointers made by a rookie. And meanwhile, Angel Reese also setting records. She set the all-time mark by any player, rookie or otherwise, for rebounds in a single season. The New York Liberty, our hometown gals, they still top the league in these standings. A couple of teams have officially clinched playoff positions. The playoffs start, the regular season ends around like September 20th or something around then, and then we'll get into the playoffs. There's been some, again, really interesting storylines. It's very clear who got to rest.
Yeah.
The Liberty had like some shaky moments. They lost 2 games since they resumed, which is unusual for the Liberty just because they just so rarely lose games. One of them against the Connecticut Sun, which is the second-ranked team, so that's not super surprising. They also lost to the Los Angeles Sparks, which I believe is the bottom-ranked team, but something we sort of take for granted is that this league is so small and the players are all so good that even like the difference sometimes between the top team and the bottom team, like it's very unusual for teams to win all 4. Usually there's around like all 4 games with a competitor.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
What is it like to have it? So New York Liberty is your team, correct?
Yeah.
What is it like to be a fan of a team that's winning so much? Like, how does that feel as a fan?
It's very nerve-wracking, especially as we get to the
playoffs. That's not the
playoffs.
answer I thought you were going to say.
Like I feel like as they're like cooking, and it's like, wow, we're really at the top. They had an amazing season last year because they got, as I mentioned, a lot of incredible players in free agency. I mean, they're called a super team. But like I've said, like the games, like this team, it'll be pretty even up until the fourth quarter. And then the Liberty has a way for just, that's like when sometimes they wait too long to sort of lock in. Like they were pretty neck and neck during a game with the Seattle Storm over the weekend, and they ended up winning by like close to 15 points. It's very exciting, but New York hasn't had a basketball championship for a very, very long time. I think fans of the Liberty would love for it to be The Knicks are probably going to be good this year too, but I would love for the Liberty to be the ones to break that. I really want a parade in Brooklyn for winning a basketball championship.
You come from Manhattan to Brooklyn for
yes,
that,
I did. I did sadly move back to Manhattan from Brooklyn, and the thing I miss the most is being right by Barclays.
This girl was literally right around the corner.
Oh, totally. I mean, we're both going to go to some games this week, but yeah, it's nerve wracking. They've already clinched a spot in the playoffs, so they're going to the playoffs, but. Yeah, you definitely sort of look into kind of weaknesses a little bit more. You could, all of these teams, not just the Liberty, pretty much every team had people on the Olympic team. They got back from Paris and then they were on the road playing games within like a couple of days. Whereas, so I'm excited for the playoffs. I think it'll be so fun for women's basketball. The tickets are going to be expensive as hell, which again is like a little bit of a bummer if you're a fan who's been able to access lots of tickets. But yeah, the playoffs are going to be incredible. Somebody who Caitlin Clark has looked incredible the whole break, but she took not being picked for that team personally. She has been looking unbelievable. Same with Angel Reese, both of them having breaking records, having career highs. The Indiana Fever, it really looks like they're going to go to the playoffs, and I don't think they've been there since like 2016. Some storylines that have emerged, like always do, is in a game against the Sky, the Indiana Fever like really beat them by a lot, and again, like some flagrant fouls against Caitlin Clark that are, hard to watch. Like you can get hurt at any time playing basketball. It's very physical, but obviously there are rules in place to avoid kind of unforced errors, and like a player from the Sky just like rammed into her and she kind of like went flying.
Oh my God.
And I think Caitlin Clark is like, if she gets one more technical foul, she's suspended from a game. So
and they can't afford that.
Yeah. So you can see like every time she sort of like somebody like picks on her whole team like pulls her away, like relax, it's not worth it, don't do anything. And she's sort of taken to sort of like running away. So this season of women's professional basketball had a lot of anticipation. These players had a lot of pressure, and I think they absolutely delivered. So I'm thrilled the Liberty is on top by like 3.5 games, but I'm more stressed. It's like when it doesn't feel like, it's very common to lose a basketball game. But when like your team does it infrequently, when it does happen, it's a bit of a bummer. But the way these playoffs work is like the Liberty is number 1. They will originally face off against the 8th best team. So they should sort of cruise through. But, I was at the game last year where
the playoff game.
Yeah, where they lost to the Aces at home. The Aces took it at Barclays and like they were shot away from tying it and maybe extending the series. And that was a devastating day. For that reason, I also lost my AirPods.
That was probably the more devastating part.
I jumped up so high that I lost my phone. Everyone had to have me find it. It was a tough. So I think my body remembers. My body keeps the score and is like, we don't want that again. But yeah, a really fun season, and I cannot wait for the playoffs. You're going to a game soon, right?
I'm going on Thursday.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And it'll be my first WNBA game.
They're so fun. Alert. I mean, all people can talk about in New York media is how fun the Liberty games are. Sean, our producer, and I are going to go see them play the Aces this weekend. And the Aces are a super fun team to watch. The Aces have had a really interesting post-Olympic moment. They have not won as often as they are accustomed to. Asia Wilson, who is doing her job. She's getting like 40 points a game. She's definitely going to be the MVP. She is definitely known for her tunnel outfits, but I don't know if you've seen this.
I've seen the white t-shirts.
Yeah, she is like, I'm just wearing a white t-shirt until we have more wins in the column. The way she phrased it was a little bit sad. She was like, I feel like I don't deserve to get dressed. I think she just sort of meant like, I'm not going to use the mental energy on the outfits. I am
Well, can you tell me more about the tunnel outfits? Like what?
I mean, she's normally just like, her fits are insane. I mean, she's normally in like a cool mini skirt and like a crop top. But yeah, now she's just in like a fresh white t-shirt and sweatpants. But Asia Wilson has not been the problem with the Aces. But I'm really curious to see how the Aces do in the playoffs, because they were looking for a 3-peat, which hasn't happened in the WNBA for a very long time. I'll stop with yapping about
You're never yapping
the WNBA,
about the WNBA.
and we can move on to another hugely popular sport that everyone is watching right now.
Yes. Before we head into our final segment, we're going to talk about the U.S. Open, which concludes, I believe, this weekend. And it's in full swing here in New York City. Oh, my God. Full swing. But you really cannot exist, I think, in New York City without knowing somebody who is going to that U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Is posting about it on their Instagram story.
More than ever this year, it feels like. I mean, I was reading that the audience is like one day, like between the day matches and the nighttime matches, 95,000 people went.
Oh my God.
I know.
Flocking to that part of Queens,
Totally.
But yeah, there have been a lot of upsets this year. Stars Coco Gauff and Naomi Osaka were beaten on the women's side, and favorites Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic were both eliminated on the men's side. Yeah, this leaves the field wide open, though, for American men, with 2 different American men left in the round of 8, giving them probably the best chance they've had since 2003 with Andy Roddick to win a U.S. Open.
It's been more than 20 years.
It sure has.
I guess I assumed Serena has sort of like given us all the impression that Americans are very dominant in these tournaments.
I guess, women athletes, it's kind of, we saw this at the Olympics too. It's just like the women are slaying and the men got to play catch up.
So you're telling me Coco and Naomi are out. So all our hopes are on
I'm tapped out person. No.
Yeah.
But really it's not, as we mentioned, it's not just the tennis people are watching this year. It's not. For example, Miss Naomi Osaka, even though she, didn't win the Open, she was winning with those outfits. I'm sure you saw all of her social media. She got that brat green outfit, her little bows. Very in vogue right now, I would say. Who else have you been seeing? Have you been seeing any other looks being sported, or are we really just focused on Naomi here?
Definitely the sort of it seems like influence and celebrities are going for the ultra prep. Every time I watch the U.S. Open, people are Wimbledon too. A lot of these Grand Slam tournaments, they're during the summer. Yeah, it is hot and humid as hell in New York, and people are in like white suits. I don't know how they are doing it. Let alone the athletes. I don't know how the athletes are playing, but
let's be honest, the swamp assery is probably real.
Unbelievable. And some of these matches have been like 5.5 hours. I've seen a lot of complaints about like this is way too long. I have friends that went on Friday. They were there till 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my god,
till 2:30 in the morning because the matches went so long, and the men played before the women, so the women's matches that night didn't start until midnight, and a lot of people had sort of left.
Oh my god.
Which sort of tells me it's like, a lot of people are kind of there to see and be seen rather than to see the tennis. I think some real tennis fans are like, what are y'all doing here?
I love a good live sporting event. I would probably, someone might
get me another Honey Deuce. I'll stay there till 2:30.
Yeah, that Honey Deuce cocktail apparently is $23.
Unreal.
But like I said,
they made $10 million off of it.
Oh my god.
I hope they give the guy who makes the little melon balls. I hope he is paid handsomely.
He's working overtime.
Yeah,
if those spectators are there till 2:30 in the morning, they're not going to just sit there without a Honey Deuce. And I've been seeing them again all over my Instagram stories. And I'll say, I want the desire I have to slug one down. Oh, I need it.
Try not having a cocktail for 7 months, Blake. Like, I saw Serena Williams posted a funny TikTok where she was like, I've never had a Honey Deuce because I'm always playing. And it's so badass because she's drinking out of a cup that has her name on it like 7 times. She's like, I get mine with tequila. She's there. She was there with Alicia Keys. The entire cast of like Scandal and Grey's Anatomy is there.
Random. I saw Anna Wintour was there. I did not see Miss Tashi Duncan though, aka Zendaya. I would think it would have been such a moment for her to be. I think she was there like studying 2 years ago for Challengers, the movie. But post Challengers coming out, she wasn't there with her 2 little boys.
It's been really fun to sort of learn more about Francis Tiafoe, incredible player who's been on the scene for a really long time. He is we stand him because he is a big supporter of women's sports. He's often wearing like Sabrina Ionescu's jersey, or he'll wear Trinity Rodman's jersey. He's great. So super excited to see him
manifesting for him.
Definitely.
As always, we conclude this episode of Well Played with a game created by our producers here at the Skimm. And today's game is called Fumbled, and it features 3 stories from the sports world. And for each of these stories, we're going to rate them 1 to 5 about how badly they fumbled things.
Oh my God, this first one.
Yeah. So our first headline. The 49ers reportedly went ahead with a team party even after rookie wide receiver Ricky Pearsall was shot in San Francisco. The Gatsby theme party was the Niners' traditional party to celebrate the 53-man roster and the end of training camp, and it was held at head coach Kyle Shanahan's home. In case you missed it, the 23-year-old Pearsall was shot in the chest when an assailant attempted to steal his Rolex. And according to reports, Pearsall fought off the attacker and both parties suffered gunshot wounds. Pearsall was able to literally 1-2-1-2 it, walk himself to that ambulance, which is insane, and was discharged from the hospital the next day. I know. Apparently, the 49ers took the news of his recovery as a sign that they were okay to throw a party, but many have called the move insensitive and distasteful. So, Amanda, what do you think on a scale of 1 to 5 footballs? How much did the Niners fumble this one?
I mean, I have no reason to give it less than 5. Why are you in a partying mood after your coworker gets shot? Even if this guy's like an asshole, you still don't, for PR purposes, get a comms person in there and be like, let's cancel this party. Homeboy got shot. Like, he is extremely lucky. I don't know. This is like, not to go there. This is like peak America where it's like, oh, somebody got shot. It's just another day. Why would we cancel the party?
Why would we?
5 footballs fumbled. Absolutely fumbled. He fought him off. Do we know if the thief got the Rolex?
I think he was still wearing that Rolex when he got in the ambulance.
Oh my God. All right. Our next fumbled story. Hot dogs. From Honey Deuces to hot dogs, from high to low. Legendary. So typically the hot dog eating contest, we think it's July 4th and then we move on. But no, these competitive eaters, they're out there. Legendary hot dog eating champs Joey Chestnut and Takeru Kobayashi, they faced off to settle the debate once and for all about who is the greatest of all time. In the Labor Day Netflix special, the pair went the distance, chomping down as many hot dogs as they could in 10 minutes. Kobayashi finished with an incredible 67 hot dogs, but it was not enough to beat Chestnut, who set a world record with 83. So who fumbled the bag on this one? Nathan's, of course. Why did this even happen? Because this past 4th of July, Nathan's declined to let the GOAT Joey Chestnut compete due to his partnership with Impossible Foods. Kobayashi hasn't been a part of the Nathan's competition since 2009 due to contract disputes. So what do you think, Blake? On a scale of 1 to 5 hot dogs, how much did Nathan's fumble the chance to sponsor this absolutely historic showdown?
I'm going to say 4.
Yeah.
I'll give it 4 hot dogs because, I mean, this duo, iconic duo, also history is made, as you mentioned. The meat sweats on these men, I have never seen anything like it. Like, I thought my brothers had a disgusting case of meat sweats, but apparently when you eat more than like 2 hot dogs, the level just increases.
And they can't dip the buns anymore, right?
I'm not familiar with the rules. It didn't even matter because I was just in awe by the spectation.
83. I mean, that's not even close.
No, I know. It's also just so funny because I'm like, damn, Kobayashi, like, get your shit together.
Yeah.
67 hot dogs, but it's like, I can eat maybe 2 hot dogs on a good day.
I also read that Kobayashi, he's 47 years old. How do you look that young, that
looks
good?
Amazing. It's called being Asian, honey.
That's
Asian
true.
don't reason. That's what we say.
You can eat that many hot dogs. I eat 2 hot dogs. I aged 10 years. Like, just sucks all the moisture out of me. This is wild. I was watching an interview with Joey Chestnut where he said sometimes in competitions he will gain 20 pounds.
Oh my God.
He doesn't eat for like 2 days before. Like, it is...
I mean,
that's why you might be like, why are they talking about this in a sports podcast? But these guys have to prepare like athletes.
That is a sport, babe.
Yeah. So 4, definitely fumbled there. What's our final fumbled headline, Blake?
Tennis player Yulia Putintseva had to issue a public apology after disrespecting a ball girl at the U.S. Open. Oh my goodness. Following a frustrating point, the ball girl was stuck waiting for the balls to be delivered to Yulia's side of the court. And when she went to throw all 3 balls at her, Yulia literally just stood there staring at her and let the first 2 bounce off her body. It was like really uncomfortable to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't even really necessarily know what I was looking at.
I didn't either. It was so weird.
She took the 3rd one. Yeah, I mean, she kind of apologized after. She was like, it wasn't about the ball girl, but you know, these kids, they really range in age a lot. I don't want to guess what this girl's age is, but it's like she definitely seemed to be maybe like preteen to teenage, and like, you know how sensitive we are at that age.
Yes.
To have somebody that you really look up to treat you with such disdain,
just
like,
stare at
that'll
you,
stick with you forever. And in front of all of those people.
How many tennis balls on a scale of 1 to 5 do you think Yulia fumbled this situation?
I'm going to go with 4. The reason I'm not going with 5 is because I don't have context necessarily for like, do men do this all of the time? I also understand like she was probably really frustrated, but she should have like, I think it's a question of like, should she have like paused for a minute and been able to overcome that and just not be rude to this poor girl. So definitely at least 4. Do you think it's no big deal?
I don't think it's no big deal. And I was going to say personally, again, 25 years old, I'm a woman. However, if I was the ball girl in this situation, tears would be down my face.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, also, I don't know about you, but have you ever seen on TikTok those like really wholesome videos of athletes just being really nice to the ball boys and girls?
Not to bring it back to Tom Brady, but like watching him in his YouTube channel, I was like, okay, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
He was really sweet with the kids.
Definitely fumbled. Again, obviously incredibly frustrated. I think we've all had those moments where we've not been at our best, but I'm glad she apologized.
Yeah.
I hope she finds a way to like personally apologize to this young woman.
But that is it for this episode of Well Played. We will be back next Tuesday. Well, I will not be here. I will be firmly planted in front of that Eiffel Tower.
Yes, doing some reporting for us.
Live reporting, live asking questions. You will be here, Amanda, with a special co-host next Tuesday. And we'll get a reaction from the biggest headlines from the weekend.
And they will be big. We'll see how people reacted to this kickoff rule. Be sure to rate, review, and follow the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening now. Follow us on Instagram at The Skimm, and please be sure to check out our brand new Well Played YouTube channel, where we have full-length videos of today's episode along with some really fun clips. We cannot wait to talk to you next time. Until then, thank you for listening to Well Played,
the only podcast in a league of its own.